Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. So just a show of hands, who uses AI at the moment? ChatGPT, yeah, everybody. Who uses AI to search for things? So if you need a plumber, if you need help on a certain kind of product or service, a few people in the room, okay. Right, brilliant. So this is what this talk is going to be based around. So this is a new behaviour. This is a behaviour that is going to continue way into the future. And it's really important that as businesses, you understand this trend that's happening and you know how to adapt to it, how to optimize your website to be more visible in the likes of ChatGPT, AI mode, etc. So a little bit about us and me, first of all. So this is our fantastic team. And actually, we've added a new person as well recently to the team. So we've been going now for 10 years. So we celebrated our 10-year anniversary in style in Somerset in a jacuzzi and a hot tub, which was fantastic. But we're very much about people, and I think that's really important for me. So we say we're a people-first digital agency. Well, what does that actually mean? That means that we're a living wage employer. We also give everybody private health insurance. They can choose to insure the kids as well if they need to. And we try and care about planet as well as people. So we use green hosting, etc. And one of the key principles for us, alongside kind of honest and transparency, which you don't always get from marketing agencies, right, if you've worked with them in the past. But we really believe in teaching and learning together, and this really aligns with today's session, really. It's about sharing that knowledge and educating people and clients, because we find when people are better educated on a topic, they can make better decisions around those things, and it helps as well in terms of that bridge of communication, as I would call it. So, you might have heard of these. So, ChatGPT, Perplexity, maybe less people. Copilot, AI mode, which only launched a few weeks ago, is the new one to add to this list. Gemini is another one as well that people may have on their phones. So, AI is going to cause huge disruption. It already is throughout industries. So, this was a really crazy stat, really, that 300 to 375 million jobs will be lost to AI. I'm sure there will be lots of jobs which are also added. But if you think about those jobs, and this will likely have been covered in the last session, but the admin type jobs, the sales reps, all of that is already starting to be replaced by AI with things like N8N workflows, etc. But one of the industries that's changing the most is digital marketing. So has anybody got Search Console set up on their websites at the moment? Have you been tracking traffic and things? Maybe not. So what's been very clear in Search Console over the past year is impressions have continued to rise, but clicks have actually started to decrease for a lot of people. So we're seeing with clients at the moment, if they do nothing, they're not investing in marketing, they're seeing 20% drops in clicks. And this is partly down to AI overviews that you may have seen in Google search. So when it kind of gives you the answer and you think, oh, don't need to click anywhere now because I've got the answer, thank you, Google. Well, that's the thing that's really disrupting things for businesses. Okay, so we all refreshed today and ready to understand how LLMs work. So, first of all, at the top here with a number of PDFs. So this could be a PDFs, it could be websites, etc. This is the first part of how LLMs work. So you take your data first. It then goes through a process which is called chunking. So if you imagine you've got a great big piece of pasta, and you're then chopping that pasta into little kind of pieces of pasta, that's essentially what that process is. It then does something which is very, very technical. If there's any IT guys in the room, I'm sure they would love to speak to you about vector mapping and databases. But that essentially becomes an entity. And if you think like little dots that are then connected to other little things, you can think of it like that with the vector mapping. Now, what's really important is here, the actual LLM, which is the parrot in this case. It can only really generate things based on what it already knows. So people often say, literally we had the conversation, didn't we, before, AI is brilliant, it's going to be an artist, it can do lots of creative things. Well, it can, but it can only do that based on the things it already knows, and that's an important thing with how LLMs work. So if you think of your business, if the information about your business is not out there in the public domain, then how can the LLM reassemble an answer to somebody? So think of it in that case. Then you've got the end user here, so Looks a little bit like me, actually, same haircut. But he's getting the answer then from that LLM, and it literally goes back to that vector mapping. It looks at the connections, it reassembles that pasta together, and then gives it to the person. Was that an okay explanation for LLMs? All right, awesome. So, as part of this, there's also another process which is called grounding, and this is a really important thing to know about AI SEO. So it's the process of linking the large language model, so the parrot that you saw with the vector database, but it links it to reliable, up-to-date information. So if we're looking for reliable, up-to-date information, where would we look, for an example? Google, exactly that. So where it finds these data sources from is often Google, Bing as well, so Copilot uses Bing, it's a Microsoft product. And then there's also other search engines, but they're mostly very, very similar to Google. Most of the LLMs are starting to move to Google because then the answers they give people are better, because Google has spent billions and billions and billions making their search engine the best search engine. And if the information you're grounding on is a bit rubbish in the first place, you're not going to get a good answer for your customers. So I guess you all look a little bit like that at the moment. Talking about LLMs, talking about grounding, like what the hell is going on? So I'm going to give you some really easy examples here. So we have no flat earthers in the room, I imagine. Okay, great. So if you were asking ChatGPT the question, is the earth round? I think we can all safely agree it is. With this case, there's 100% certainty that the earth is round. So therefore, no grounding is then needed to double check and verify that information. Oh, there's Alex. There's Donald Trump. Bloody hell, here he comes. So if we were to ask who is the current president of the US, maybe there's like a 60% certainty. Maybe the world's gone crazy. You know, Alex has put his fake tan on and, put his Donald Trump wig on. Who knows? So in this case, it may choose to ground. It may not choose to ground. There's things where, how recent the model is that it's using, how long the term is with the president, things like that. But in this case, it would probably want to ground that information just to double check that it is correct and they're not saying Donald Trump is the president. And I don't know, maybe he got assassinated the last week or something. So here's another one, Alex, as well. This is you as a boy band. That's incredible. This is generative AI, by the way, like incredible. So if we were to ask who is number one in the music charts this week? So this could be Alex's weird clone army boy band. Kind of looks a bit kind of Eastern European Eurovision as well, kind of strangely. But this is a 0% certainty. There's no way that the large language model can know up to date this week who is number one in the charts. So this is where it would go and it would do the grounding on Google, find that result, give it back to the user. So the opportunity in AI search comes from this grounding process. If you want it to optimize for the other side of it, which is all that data that's contained in the vectors in the database, that's very, very difficult. It takes a lot of time. Grounding is where there's the easiest opportunity for this. So another thing I have to show you is how people search in AI tools is different to traditional search. So here's how. So for example, a traditional search, if I was looking for a business coach, I would type something in like business coach near me into Google search results. If I was using something like AI search, I may instead search for I'm a manufacturing business in Leeds that needs help with marketing processes and business growth. Please recommend a business coach that can help me. And therefore, you'd then get a more specific answer that's more tailored to you. Now, this is the response that comes out of AI mode. So has anybody had to play around with AI mode yet in Google search? No, not yet. Look, a few people. All right, fantastic. How are you finding it?
I've done it for looking for some suitable funding.
Ah, amazing.
For a project, and it sorted out and came back to me with a whole list of potential funding applications.
Amazing. So that's like grounding process in action there. So it's incredible, yeah. So it will just take the action and then it will do the grounding. It will create tasks and then it will find everything. So it's incredible. And there's some really incredible things happening with AI mode. So, who shops are clothes online, for example, at the moment in the room? Oh, not as many as I thought, actually. Interesting. So soon you'll be able to buy clothes directly in AI mode and you'll never need to go onto that person's website. You'll be able to tell AI mode what kind of clothing you like. You'll be able to visualize that piece of clothing on yourself as well before you buy it. And then you can say to AI mode, okay, go and buy this, but I want it when it gets discounted rather than paying full price for it. And then that agent will go, it will buy that product for you, and then it'll arrive the next day. Like the future is crazy kind of in this side. So in this answer, what we see first of all is it's taken that query that we've asked, that longer query, and then it's found manufacturing specific kind of organizations that can help. On the second part of this query, it's then tacked onto the leads plus the business coach part of that query. And then it's suggested people like Bill Squires, we know Backslapper Bill, don't we, very well? I call him Backslapper Bill because he's got hands like dinner plates, and every time he meets you, he slaps you on the back. So that's his nickname that I've given him. Ian is another action coach as well that we know. We've got Haroon Rashid and we've got Phil Fraser. I suppose the key question is, like, why is AI mode recommending these people? So if we think about how the LLMs work in the first place, when they've got all those vector mappings and connections, it will know that these people are active in leads, for example. This is why, like, Jenny and yourself are not being recommended. If we were to repeat the same task for Wakefield, we'd get a whole different load of responses. So it will look at the queries, and we'll break down how that works a little bit later in the presentation. And this is the same thing inside of ChatGPT. So bear in mind the processes, how these work, and the mechanisms are very similar. And again, we can see Bill mentioned, we can see Ian, but then we can see all sorts of different people that don't exist on AI mode. And this is really showing that AI is, number one, personalized. So if people don't know, AI has a memory, if you like. So for example, if you have told AI in the past that you are vegetarian, so ChatGPT, and 3-4 weeks later you're asking for restaurant recommendations, it will create a vector mapping between those two things, and it will only show you restaurants that have vegetarian options on their menus. It's really, really incredible. So that kind of search experience is so tailored, and it's why this is going to be inevitable in this space, because why would you not want something that is completely tailored to you versus something that's a bit generic in kind of traditional search results, which is amazing. Okay, so this is the original search that we put in. So we put in I'm a manufacturing business in Leeds that needs help with marketing, processes, business growth. Please recommend a business coach that can help me. So when it's doing the grounding, what it's essentially doing is it's taking that long query and then it's making little more specific search queries that then it goes into Google to perform those searches. So in this case, it would do something similar to this. So it would look for business coach and manufacturing businesses. It would look for best business coach leads and business coach and marketing. It would take all of those results and then it will compile them and then it will give them back to the user. So this is the grounding in action. How do we know that the search engines do this? Well, the people of ChatGPT left some code in accidentally. That basically gave us all this information. However, they've now patched it, so, sorry. But at least we have that information so we know how to optimize it for the future. So what you really need to be thinking about when you optimize for AI is a lot of the traditional stuff still works for SEO. So if you can rank in the top 3 for best business coach leads, you're more likely to get recommended in these AI engines because of the grounding process that happens. So now we've learned kind of how it works, we've done the school bit, the teaching bit. How do we actually optimize for it? So number one, I spoke about this before, but traditional SEO is still alive and well. So all the things that you'll have previously done for your SEO, so backlinks, mentions, creating new landing pages, on-page optimization, all of that stuff is still as relevant as it's ever been. It's probably more important, in fact, because you need to be top of those search results so then you can be grounded for the AI. So really, really important. Number 2, this word always makes people laugh for some reason, listicles, but well, I don't know. I was on a presentation once and everybody couldn't stop laughing for about 20 minutes. They obviously have very dirty minds. So listicles, so what do I mean when I talk about listicles? So I mean websites that have like top 10, for example. So this could be things like free best rated, Check a Trade if you're in the trade. Best local rated. TripAdvisor is probably one of the biggest and most well-known listicles across the web. So they kind of look like this. So this is an example in my industry, so Sortlist. So it shows the businesses. What's really interesting actually is if you look here where they're actually located. So I've searched for a marketing consultant in Bradford and then it's recommended loads in bloody London. And that's basically because people have jumped onto this, they've identified it, and then they're paying lots of money to these websites to basically get listed so then they can get cited inside of ChatGPT, etc., and then get the traffic and the leads consequently from it. Because at the moment, it's not very good at actually distinguishing where that business is. If that data is just hosted on another website and it says they're the best marketing consultants in Bradford, it can sometimes just take it at that basis and not do a deeper analysis on it. So it's quite interesting on that side. This is another one. So yeah, we got the top spot there. Yeah, we didn't have to pay any money either, so that was good. So this is free best rated. That works across industries. So whatever industry you're in, have a look at free best rated. All you need to do to get that list is it's about 10 minutes of your time. Complete your profile, and then you get listed as one of the top 3, which is awesome. And then they do occasionally send you a little like grovelly email, like, please can you donate to us? And then, you know, we'll make sure you're still top. Well, anyway, none of my business. Number 3, so this is the crucial part, right? So when we talked about the vector embeddings before and how they all connect together, think of your business as being in the center of this and then lots of spokes and things and connections coming off from it. What do people say about your business, for example? Do they say you're high quality? Do they say you're cheap? Do they say you're faster at getting back to customers? Do you have a great warranty, for example? All those things as a business are important. What you need to make sure is that information is consistent. So that's across Google reviews, that's on your own website, that's on listicles like we've seen, citations, so Yell.com, Yelp. That all needs to be consistent. But where there's really, really awesome potential is in enhancing your data that you already have. So in this example, and this is what we've actually done for a client. So let's pretend we all sell LED strip lights. Right, it's a great product. On those LED strip lights, we need to make sure that we're talking about all of these things. And I'll show you why this becomes important in an example query and how this is broken down afterwards. So we need to talk about the quality of the product, the warranty, what the length of the product is. Is it 5 meters, 10 meters? Is it in a roll? What it is and what per meter, so therefore how energy efficient is the LED strip. Use cases, can it be used in a kitchen? Can it be used in the living room, etc., etc. Data sheets, installation info, brightness, water resistance. There's lots of things that you can write about that product. What you need to do is think about your business and what are those attributes that relate to your business. So if you do IT, do you work in Microsoft 365? Do you work in certain sectors, for example? How can you enhance the data that you have on your website? What you then need to do is take that data that you've enhanced, either about your business or your service offering, and you need to repeat that enhanced data, because the LLMs, when they're doing the grounding processes, when they're even building kind of the database for the LLM, they will look for that same connection across the web. So imagine you were asking for a recommendation, or you're looking at somebody's CV. You would like to see that it's consistent and it says on that CV, they've worked at this place. You call the place up and they go, yeah, certainly worked at this place. You need that same kind of approach, but across the web, so you can then repeat your data wherever it's found. So you can do this on things like blogs, on forums, on social media accounts, Google reviews. So, make your customers talk about your product. A really easy way you can do this is, instead of just asking for, can you leave me a review? Ask them, can you leave me a review, but can you talk about the service that you got from us? Can you talk about your experience? And can you talk about who dealt with you and your query? That's a really easy little tiny thing you can change in your business, but it'll have a great impact in terms of the content of those reviews then. Because how many times have we asked a customer for a review and they either don't do it, or they just go on and leave you 5 stars and go, good work, or something. It just has no context in the review. So how you do those little changes can really, really matter. What's also important is the consistency of that information across the web. So going back to the point with LED strip lights, if you say you sell really high quality, amazing strip, but actually you sell cheap Chinese rubbish that breaks after a year, and lots of people are complaining about it in the forums and saying how cheap and rubbish it is, who do you think the LLM is going to believe? You who are blowing your own trumpet on your website, or real customers and experience on other websites that are talking about how it's such a poor quality? So making sure that you have that consistency over what you say and what the actual experience is for customers is really, really important. And I quite like this image. So it kind of talks about the entity connection, so the vector kind of embeddings. And Google recently kind of cleaned up all this. So in terms of what Google's database looks like for these vector embeddings, it's around 600 billion different entities that Google measure and make connections between, which is just a mind-boggling number to think about. It's huge. So they recently cleaned up all their kind of database, so then it can make their LLMs better. Because remember, the LLMs are trained on the initial vector database. If that is rubbish, then the outputs are also going to be rubbish. So Google removed about 10% of their data that they had, which was really, really interesting. So a nice tidy room makes a corroborated footprint across the web, educates the AI, gives the AI confidence in the information that it can see across the web. So make sure that it's as consistent as it can be. Okay, so this is an example of a search query inside of AI mode. And like we saw before in the slides, this is how people will then engage in the future. The really difficult part about optimizing for AI is trying to second guess what your customers will search for. That is the hardest thing, because there is no analytic tools for that currently that are out in the market. I'm sure they'll come eventually, or they will probably monetize that access of information at some stage. I would imagine a little bit like Google Ads and things do. Okay, but my query here. So I have asked, recommend an energy efficient cob LED light strip that I can install in my kitchen. And this is the response that it gets. Now, what I want you to really focus on here is its kind of summary at the top. So energy efficient cob, so it knows it's a chip on board, which is a type of LED strip. Are a great choice for kitchen. So again, it's picked up my query there with the kitchen, because they produce a bright, uniform light without visible dots. Several high efficient options are available in a range of brightnesses and color temperatures. Now, do you remember when we were talking about enhancing that data? This is where that becomes really, really important, because the AI knows that if it's for a kitchen, it needs to be dotless, so it needs to be seamless, because that's what shoppers and people generally want. And it also reverts them back to what's called the Kelvin, which is what measures the warmth of the light. So 6,000 Kelvin's a very clean white light, and then you have 1,000 Kelvin, which is more like a warm yellowish kind of light and stuff. So it knows that if it's for a kitchen, therefore it needs to be this type of Kelvin. So it can create those connections between your products, okay? I've done a little diagram to help you kind of understand this. So there we go. So this is the original query that I put in here. And this is kind of now dissecting that query on how the LLMs will look at the query in the different elements. Okay. So first of all, that was really important in what I asked for in this prompt. Energy efficient. So what does energy efficient mean to everybody? For example, if you're looking for something that's energy efficient, it means it's cheap, doesn't it, to run? And how is it worked out that it's cheap? Anybody, an electrician? Yeah, which goes back to watts, doesn't it? Which, yeah. So, for example on this, so energy efficient. So, just by saying the word energy efficient, it knows it needs to look for an LED strip that has low watts per meter. So that's going to be an important thing for getting cited in this search result. The COB is chip on board, so again, it knows what that abbreviation means in this context. A really important part of this query as well is I said I can install. I didn't say an expert can install. So that means it needs to be easy installation. So that needs to be written on the product description that it's easy to install. Maybe an installation guide that exists on that product would be amazing, for example, for this query. And then we've got kitchen. Kitchen is a really complex one where there's lots of different things that come off this with a query. So we're talking about water resistance, because we all have kettles, we all have water in our kitchen. It's quite a humid environment, so water resistant is important. water resistant is run by IP ratings. I think it's IP64 or something. I know far too much about this industry. I worked with these guys for 3 years, so I'm sorry. It needs to be a bright white light. So it knows that when people search for kitchens, they want a bright white light. If I did this same search for living room, it would know I wanted more of a warm light rather than a bright light. And because of that bright light, it needs to be a high Kelvin number on that product. So hopefully you can see there kind of how we start off with that query, how it gets broken down into the different chunks, and then how that grounding process then would work. So out of all of these, the AI agent, wherever it may be, AI mode, ChatGPT, it will go away and it will look for different things. So it might look for low watts per meter LED strip, 6,000 Kelvin. And then it will find the results from there and recommend it. So the important thing here is if you are not optimizing your website with all of this information, how the hell can you be cited kind of in these places? That's a fundamental thing to do. There's other things that come later as a consequence, so making sure you have your backlinks, that you're giving it out to customers, it's a popular product, all of this stuff. But this is really the fundamental, the foundation step for everybody. And this is something that everybody can take away from today and implement. So go through every service that you offer. Think about the kind of customers that you have, those shopping habits of those customers, what they're looking for when they're looking for support. And then think about how you can build your website and make it more relevant for those things. That's really important. Oh, okay, it's back. Great. Okay, so that wraps up my presentation. Hopefully it wasn't too tacky. Was it okay? Everybody still awake? All right, great. So thank you.